Wrestling fans, are you ready? For the untold numbers listening at home, at work, in their cars, at the gym, and anywhere else people listen to podcasts. From Keene in the Shire, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get hyped for the Penguin Club Podcast.
Oh, we're just getting started, baby. Because I stay hyped!
Welcome to the Penguin Club Podcast. Yeah, it's that podcast that is just too sweet to miss. And you know what's happening on Sunday. Yeah, that's right. WWE revs up the engine and they enter that fast lane to WrestleMania. Now, I know it's called Fastlane, which makes one think that, oh, WrestleMania is just like 2 weeks away. As Stone Cold would say, it's like a month away. So, yeah, they could really do better with the name here. Maybe they should pull a book out or pull a page out of the New Japan book and just call it Road to WrestleMania. Oh, right. No, the Road to WrestleMania starts at the Royal Rumble, and some people already have their tickets for the Road to WrestleMania. Yeah, looking at you, Shinsuke Nakamura. Other people, well, I can't see him, but John Cena, you know, he has no path to WrestleMania, right? He's just going to like sit there. I'm John Cena. I don't have a path to WrestleMania. No, you're John Cena. You've been around for a long time. You can have basically whatever you want at WrestleMania other than a match against Brock Lesnar or AJ Styles. Now, I mentioned he can't have a match against AJ Styles. Well, maybe he can. Maybe, just maybe. And how? Well, I'll tell you while I go through the Fast Lane predictions. Now, I'm going to go opposite order of how the prediction sheet here in front of me has the matches laid out. That way, the six-pack challenge match. Yeah, and why? I guess because, you know, like beer comes in a six-pack, but still, it's strange because now, hold on. I'm going to think this thing out verbally here. So it's triple threat, fatal four-way, fatal five-way, six-pack challenge. And then I don't know what they would call if there were 7 or 8. And I don't know if they've ever had like a fatal 8-way. I think one of the Money in the Bank ladder matches may have had 7 people at one time, but I don't think they called it a fatal 7. Lucky 7, unlucky 7s, maybe. I don't know. But maybe there needs to be a name for a fatal 5-way other than fatal 5-way. But I digress and continue. So that six-pack challenge championship match for the WWE title that's currently held by AJ Styles, Georgia. Anybody that listens to the WNA podcast should catch that reference to Georgia. If you can't take forearms to the side of the face, get out of the business, Georgia. All right, so enough of me just rambling. Let's get into... And it's not Wrestle Ramble, but let's get into the tag team, or rather the predictions, beginning with a women's tag match. Now, is this maybe, possibly, maybe, hopefully, maybe, fingers crossed, maybe, hopefully, sign of something to come? Maybe will there possibly maybe be a women's tag division that forms? Maybe, fingers crossed. We do know that there's going to be a cruiserweight tag division, And there's also the news out of NXT that they are going to have the North American Championship as a mid-card belt at NXT. I'll actually get into previewing that later. Not later this show, but in, a month before WrestleMania and the NXT TakeOver in New Orleans. So tag team women's match. We've got Becky Lynch teaming with Naomi, facing Natalya and Carmella, or as Becky calls her, Ciella, because she just took her arm with that disarm her. Yeah, so I've got Becky and Naomi winning this. Becky making Carmella tap to the aforementioned disarmor. And because Carmella is tapping out in this match, no, she will not be running in with her Money in the Bank briefcase during the Women's SmackDown Championship match that I will talk about in moments. Next, we have, and I don't really know why this match is happening, we have Shinsuke Nakamura, the man who will be facing AJ Styles, asterisk, possibly maybe John Cena as well, at WrestleMania, because he won the Royal Rumble, so he's already got his road to WrestleMania. He already knows that he has a title match. At WrestleMania, he is facing Rusev Day. Yeah, I know Rusev Day is not the name of the competitor. Rusev is the competitor. The match is happening on Rusev Day, and Aiden English will be accompanying Rusev to the ring. And I have to say that I really like the progression of the Aiden English character, just because I remember when Aiden English and Simon Gotch were in NXT thinking, yeah, this 1920s wrestler gimmick isn't going to go very far on the main roster. And I forget exactly what happened to Simon Gotch, but he's no longer on the main roster. And Aiden English wound up needing to do something else. And they're like, all right, oh, you can actually sing. All right, cool. We'll make you team up with Rusev for some reason. And it worked. Yeah, Aiden English, Rusev as a team works. But unfortunately, Rusev is going to wind up losing to Shinsuke, because you can't have the guy challenging for the championship lose a pay-per-view match at the pay-per-view just before WrestleMania. You can't. It would make him look weak. And, well, maybe that's what WWE wants. Maybe they want you to think, oh, Shinsuke can't win because, look, he just lost to Rusev. But no, I think they're going to have Shinsuke go over with a pinfall after hitting the Kinshasa. Next, we have a singles match that is going to see the champion, Charlotte Flair, facing Ruby Riott, with the Riott Squad in the corner of Ruby Riott. Now, this is going to be one of those, I don't want to say a typical heel face sort of thing, but they are going to be telling the story here of the babyface champion, Charlotte Flair, going up against these massive odds of basically a 3-on-1 match. And I say basically a 3-on-1 match because you know that Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan are going to get involved while the ref is telling Ruby Riott she can't do something. Ruby, you need to back up. Back away from Ruby, listen to me, Ruby. All the while, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan giving a beat down to Charlotte. It's basically a 3-on-1 as long as two of the people don't wind up getting caught by the ref. But in the end, Charlotte Flair retains. And then the question is, who does she face at WrestleMania? And that's a legit question. Because unless something has changed, Asuka has not declared which title she's going for at WrestleMania. So do you have Asuka versus Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania? Because there's a dynamic that could be told there. You have the unbeaten Asuka going up against Charlotte, who has only ever lost, one pay-per-view title match, I think? There's not a lot. So you've got this, unbeaten challenger versus an almost unbeatable at pay-per-view champion. It could be a really good story to tell. Or do you have somebody else just sort of like come out of nowhere to challenge Charlotte? Or maybe, and I'm thinking this out loud here, maybe you do have something to where Charlotte isn't able to overcome these 3-on-1 odds. Ruby Riott basically, cheat to win. The old Eddie Guerrero thing, cheat to win. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And maybe you do have something to where, Ruby barely pulls out the victory. Charlotte somehow winds up, taking out Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan. You think she's got the better of Ruby. Ruby, catches her with a roll-up, 1, 2, 3. Charlotte then starts a beat down on Ruby after the match. So Ruby is laid out, and then what do you hear over the loudspeaker, over the TV if you're watching at home? Fabulous. Yeah, you then hear Carmella's music. So maybe Carmella does cash in if Ruby Riott somehow pulls out the victory. But I don't know if that would happen. And then you would still have Charlotte, who would have a rematch in theory, because that's one of those things that the rematch clause, the very important rematch clause that isn't always allowed to be invoked because, I'm looking at you, Finn Balor. You've still never gotten your shot at the Universal title, and I'm glad you mentioned it, but not nearly enough. It needs to be mentioned always that I never got a rematch for the belt that I never lost. Or maybe you only get a rematch if you actually lose the belt. You have to surrender the belt, and the rematch clause doesn't exist. It's one of those things to where nobody really knows exactly how it works because it's, used only when they need it to be used for storylines. Yeah, almost like how the referee's decision stands, asterisk, except for when it gets overturned by the general manager, asterisk, except for when another referee happens to run out for some reason to tell the first referee, hey, you missed this, asterisk. All kinds of times when the referee's decision does not stand. Yeah. Whoever would have thought that, and you've got to defend the belt every 30 days, except for when you don't, Brock Lesnar. Please don't kill me. Please, Brock, if you're listening to this, legit, please, do not kill me. But the 30-day thing, it only applies when they want it to apply. Right, Daniel Bryan? Had to retire because you couldn't defend it within 30 days, but yet Brock goes forever without title defenses. And as much as I love Alexa Bliss, she also has gone a long time without title defenses. And hell, Dean Ambrose, when he had the IC title, and before that, the U.S. title, he went forever without title defenses. So, yeah, it's almost as if, they just use things for storyline when it fits. Yeah, I know. Silly, right? Right? All right, so in either case, Charlotte Flair has a Women's SmackDown Championship match at WrestleMania. I think she will be the champion, but it's very likely that she would be the challenger if certain things happen that I don't think are very likely, but maybe WWE, in their attempts to not be predictable, will wind up doing the thing that nobody really expects, which is to have Ruby Riott win and then Carmella cash in on Ruby Riott. Which then the question becomes, does Charlotte get the rematch, or does Ruby get a rematch, or do they both get rematches? And then is it a triple threat match at WrestleMania? Good questions all. So next up, we have the Tag Team Championship match, where we see the Truce being violated. Yeah, the Truce. It's being violated. Where we're going to have the Usos versus the New Day in a SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. Now, we do know for a fact, or as close to know for a fact as is possible, there's definitely the reports throughout all of the dirt sheets and the rumor mills and whatnot that Vince McMahon, not only does he love big sweaty men, but he also wants the New Day to be the tag team champions. Like he wants them to be the champions with the most reigns. They already have the longest continuous reign, but reports are that he wants them to have the most reigns. How do you do that other than having them win the title? And they need to do that here against the Usos. And then that would wind up meaning at WrestleMania, you've got the New Day versus the Usos in a championship match. Because hopefully they're not going to just give away the rematch on a SmackDown. Now, would be a good match, but we've seen this match a bunch of times. It needs to be at WrestleMania. And then you have the New Day retain, and then there's the question of, all right, who's next? Not in that Goldberg, who's next kind of way, but as the Usos pointed out in one of their promos not too long ago, they've beaten everybody, but then there's kind of that allusion to, wait a second, you've not yet beaten the Bludgeon Brothers. So would New Day wind up, should the New Day, and that's a better question, should the New Day win here, lose at WrestleMania, and then you have the Usos feud against the Bludgeon Brothers, and then maybe at Backlash, you wind up letting New Day face Bludgeon Brothers? Or do you need the Bludgeon Brothers to just, keep smashing jobbers? And then at, say, Backlash, you finally wind up giving the Bludgeon Brothers some kind of opportunity. And then, I don't know, maybe triple threat match? And then, you could still have your champs look strong by not actually taking the pinfall. Again, questions that we don't yet know the answers to, which is why we think about them out loud, and hopefully it gives you something to think about as well. But I do think that New Day is going to pick up the win here against the Usos. And, I don't really think that you need the championship belts involved in that first Uso Bludgeon Brother feud, because right now the Bludgeon Brothers, aside from mild references here and there throughout Fashion Police, Fashion Filed skits, you've not really had a Bludgeon Brother feud with anybody. Yeah, I know they, squashed Fashion Police and the Ascension several weeks in a row, but you need to give them a really good feud, and I don't know if you necessarily need the titles involved in their first feud. So I'm sort of fantasy booking in my head here. You have the New Day win. You have the Usos feud with Bludgeon Brothers for a couple of months, and then you have the Bludgeon Brothers go over in that feud, and then they get a title shot. That's how I'm seeing it work out in my brain. Now, the next to last match, as of what's currently announced and what is on the prediction sheet that is in front of me, we have the United States Championship. Bobby Roode versus Randy Orton. And the only reason we have this match is because, well, Randy Orton has never been the United States champion. Is that really a good reason to put him in a feud here with Bobby Roode? I don't know, but maybe from a storytelling aspect, maybe, just maybe, it would be good story to have Randy Orton chase this belt for a little bit, to where it becomes something other than, I've never had that belt, I want it, to, I want to be on the same level as, fill in the blank, and start naming off some names of people that are Grand Slam champions. To where it becomes more than the United States Championship, but at the same time it elevates the United States Championship. And maybe this will also be an opportunity for Bobby Roode to become heel. Or maybe, hell, keep him in that kind of face thing, but then you just make Randy Orton super, super heelish, which he's a much better heel than he is a babyface. But you extend this out beyond just Fastlane and the mandated, except for when it's not, rematch at WrestleMania. So I think you need to have Bobby Roode go over in this match. And then, again, you have a heel Randy Orton chasing a face Bobby Roode, even though, again, Bobby Roode needs to be a heel. Now, let's get into this 6-pack challenge match, where we have the phenomenal AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn versus Baron Corbin versus Ziggles versus the Doctor of Thugonomics, John Cena. The man that he has no path to WrestleMania, but he's got enough sway to where he can just jump back and forth between Raw and SmackDown and demand to be placed into number one contender matches and title matches. But golly gee, what am I going to do? Can't wrestle at WrestleMania. Now, there have been talks and discussions, again, rumor mills, dirt sheets, that John Cena was possibly maybe going to fight Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania, but now it appears that Rey Mysterio might be injured and he can't do the grappling in the ring with John Cena. And then remember, John Cena is also one championship away from breaking Ric Flair's record, asterisk, as viewed by WWE, even though, I know Ric Flair actually won closer to like 20 or 21 world titles, but WWE only recognizes 16 of them. So if John Cena winds up picking up the championship here, then would that set up a triple threat match at WrestleMania? Or would they just have him drop the title a couple nights later back to AJ Styles so that we could have that AJ Shinsuke match? Do we need to have an AJ Shinsuke match at WrestleMania as a one-on-one? Or do you make it triple threat? And, again, some of these are questions that are probably being discussed in the WWE booking rooms as we speak. Or rather, as I speak and as you listen, assuming you're not listening to this after they've already made a decision. And based on some of the reports, they might make decisions, say, 20 minutes before the match actually starts. So, who really knows when they're making decisions? Not I. I guess Vince knows when they make decisions because Vince is the one making the decisions, and he might change his mind up until the time that, hell, he might change his mind while the match is going. Get word out there to the ref that I want the match to go different. You tell John Cena that he's going to pin AJ Styles in the middle of the ring. Yeah, that's what I want. AJ getting pinned by Cena while Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn wind up doing stuff to Baron and Ziggles. Yeah, that's what I want. That's what the people want. I know what the people want. I'm Vince McMahon. And yes, I realize that was an absolutely horrible Vince McMahon impression, but it was what it was. So, official prediction is AJ Styles pins Ziggles in the middle of the ring. Now, why do I think AJ is going to pin Ziggles? Well, remember, in the interviews that he was giving where he was explaining how at the time, I believe it was a 5-man match, he was explaining how that could happen. He's like, well, see, Renee, let's say that I'm over here beating up Cammy. Ziggles could be in the middle of the ring pinning Baron Corbin. Or let's say that I'm over here doing something to Baron Corbin. Ziggles could be in the ring pinning Sami Zayn. And, he was picking on Ziggles because he knows that Ziggles isn't going to win this match. And when you know somebody's not going to win the match, they're the obvious candidate to wind up taking the pinfall. So you have Ziggles getting pinned by AJ Styles in the middle of the ring. Now, there's probably going to be an attempt at a calf crusher a couple of times. Ooh, I got it. So you've got Ziggles in a calf crusher. And then somebody comes and breaks that up. And then Ziggles goes for either a zigzag or a famouser. And somehow that gets reversed by AJ into, what's that weird thing where he does kind of like the AA, but he drops them on the back of their head on his knee. Yeah, he's going to reverse it into that thing. And then wind up picking up the 1, 2, 3. I got it. By golly, I think I've got it. Now, again, would not surprise me if John Cena wins. Lol Cena wins. Because, again, as I mentioned, Mysterio might not be able to compete at WrestleMania. The Undertaker is probably not coming out of retirement. And then, that might actually leave Cena with no other road to WrestleMania unless he wins this match. Or so they want you to believe. Cena is going to be at WrestleMania fighting somebody for something. Whether it's just pride or it's the WWE Championship, Cena will be in a match at the WrestleManias. Now, I've still not decided if I'm doing a show in 2 weeks as sort of an Ask Me Anything sort of thing. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But if you have questions or feedback, send that over. show@penguinclubpod.com. And don't forget, you can find all of the archives at penguinclubpod.com. Links over to the RSS feed, Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, and TuneIn, and of course, iHeartRadio. Until whenever, goodbye and good night.